Happy Monday, my fit family, and thank you so much for joining me on this Monday. And I wanted to do something a little different than I've done before. I want to go through some research and answer some questions. And starting the new year, I know it's already February, and I've been thinking about my profession as a personal trainer, as a person who has depression and always trying to make herself better. And the question I always think about is, why are we always trying to lose weight? Now, I understand that there's this perception of if it's for health benefits, and that's what I'm going to go through. Are we really losing weight because of only health benefits? Are we trying to get healthier? Because there are a lot of people here who are overweight, who are healthy. You're looking at her right now. I've always gone to the doctors and they've always told me my weight is a little bit high and my BMI is actually in the overweight range. But my blood sugar is good, my cholesterol is good, everything is good. And I've always been told that I'm a pretty healthy person, except I'm overweight. And that always makes me want to challenge it. And I challenge it myself. I've admitted that I've gained a few pounds in the last couple of months, and it makes me feel really something about myself. I doubt myself and I make myself feel bad, but then I realize that my weight shouldn't determine my mood. And that's what we're going to go through. I just want to let you know that I went through an article, I Googled it, it happened to show up on my Google feed. It was published in November 2020, and the title is called 10 Encouraging Signs of Progress on Your Weight Loss Journey. And I find this very loaded because it means that we should be losing weight, and here are some signs. But we're going to go through it, and thank you so much for joining me, and let's get right into it. Before we start, let's go through some terms. What is BMI? BMI is body mass index, and it is the person's weight in kilograms divided by the square of height in meters. And the prevalence of obesity, according to a 2017-2018 study, is about 42.4% in the world. And I see that's why I wanted to check myself and make sure that that's why we're always trying to lose weight. Almost a majority of people are defined as overweight and obese. And that is a problem if you do have health conditions. If you are diabetic, losing weight has been shown to assist with your progress in diabetes, but it's not a foolproof method. And one of the questions that the article points out is that how can you tell that your health is steadily improving and your weight loss journey is progressing? And it seems pretty loaded. Why we always have to be losing weight? Let's get right into it. So let's go through the 10 signs that this article went through, how your weight loss program is showing signs when it's not totally dependent on the scale. We're going to go through each of them and a little bit of my opinion. The first one is that you're not always hungry. Well, I've spoken to a lot of clients, and usually they use their hunger cues as signs that they are losing weight. A lot of people believe that if you're hungry, then you are losing weight. If you are adding more protein and more vegetables and eating full meals compared to snacking and you feel more full, it could be mean that you're finally giving your body the nutrition it needs, and that's great. But I wouldn't use your hunger cue specifically, especially if you are stressed all the time, if you're not sleeping consistently, if you have other things going on. I know for me, I never really depend on my hunger cues to see if I'm losing weight. Yes, if I'm hungry, I'm eating a little bit less, but it's not a conscious thing of what I'm doing. So a lot of people use this as the first sign, and I want to make sure that everybody is completely different. The second point they point out is your sense of well-being improves. I really feel uneasy when people say that because I personally have depression, and I don't want to always think that when I lose weight, I'm going to be happier, I'm going to be less sad, because then it puts so much pressure on me to lose weight, and I don't want to anymore. I want to become stronger, I want to become fitter, and if it means the weight will change, great, but that's not the main goal. That would be a byproduct, and my well-being comes first. I have to feel better about myself no matter what, because I am me, and that's what I'm pushing for. So one article that I went through, the title was called Weight Change, Psychological Well-Being, and Vitality in Adults Participating in a Cognitive Behavioral Weight Loss Program. I read this article because the article had cited it, so I wanted to see what the research was going to be. And one thing that they had cited in their introduction was that individuals with larger waist circumferences and higher BMIs report lower quality of life and had more impairment in completing tasks of everyday living. And this seems like the common theme that people think, is that if you're bigger, then you are not living the best life. And this is something that's really sad that we still hold on to, that I'm looking into, and I want to present to you and show you that that's not necessarily true. And one thing that they define in this article is vitality. And what is vitality? The definition is that the specific psychological experience of processing enthusiasm and spirit. It's who you are. It's your life force. Some people of us are really bigger than life and characters. Some of us are more subdued, introverts. And this is different for every single person. It has nothing to do with your weight. So in this study, they had participants that all had a higher than 25 BMI, which means they were in the overweight category. And they had a total of 588 participants that they randomly set to 3 interventions. The 3 interventions were done over 1 year. The first intervention was just using a workbook alone to track your progress. The second intervention was the addition of using a computerized tailored program using computer kiosks they had set up at the destination where they were to report. And the third one was using both the computer and staff counseling. So as you can see, through each level, it got more supportive as you went through. And the 3 paths of this computer intervention covered fitness, nutritional, and psychobehavioral aspects of weight loss. So during the first 3 months, the participants were instructed to use the kiosk weekly to help identify their problem areas and set their own goals. Their body weight and height was measured at the baseline, then measured at 6 months, and then measured at 12 months to have 3 measurements. They also were given questionnaires for their physical activity, and they did a psychological well-being index, which measured 6 different types of emotions. Pretty much a depressed mood scale, anxiety, positive well-being, self-control, general health, and vitality score. The majority of the participants were women, 82.3%, and the majority of them were Caucasian, 83%. The mean age was 52.2 years old, and 1/3 of them had a graduate level degree. So what happened is that the mean overall well-being, anxiety, depression did not differ from baseline compared to the first year, even with weight loss. Their self-control and general health were significantly lower at 1 year compared to the baseline, which is an interesting finding and not what the experimenters thought would actually happen. But one thing that did happen that they were very excited was that vitality significantly increased from baseline to 1 year. The BMI changes were not associated with behavioral depression, anxiety, self-control, or positive well-being. What did the study find? The study found that all of the intervention groups lost a significant amount of weight from baseline, which is what they were hoping would happen. The weight change across treatment groups at 12 months was associated with higher overall psychological well-being, lower levels of anxiety and depression, higher positive well-being, self-control, and vitality. And it seems that out of all these things that they measured, depression, anxiety, well-being, positive, that vitality was found to be the best predictor of weight change. So how much energy and enthusiasm you have for yourself is what's going to determine whether you're going to be successful at weight loss. So one thing that they discussed was their limitations of the study. And the limitation was that the measurements of well-being were self-reported, and that their group was mostly women and Caucasian, which is not the general population of the world who are overweight. And the things that they discussed in this article that I agree is that vitality did become a big predictor of how much weight loss. But the thing is that it is very different for every single person. Whether you want to lose weight or not is really up to you. And if you find a way and it's your personality trait to do it, then you will. But that's said about anything. Whether you want to go for a new job or you want to try a new relationship, it's really dependent on you. And that's defined as vitality. And one thing that this article pointed out was that self-identification as overweight or obese, whether you are not, is really related to negative emotions. If I were to literally just look at myself and say, okay, my BMI is overweight, therefore I'm overweight, then that might put myself in a different mood if my mindset is in that way. But if I never measure myself and just be like, well, I could run faster today, I could lift heavier today, or today I can do a longer plank, it has nothing to do with my weight loss. So therefore, this study was showing that it's actually not really what people say you are, but what you say you are. The third point is that your clothes fit differently. So a lot of us use the scale and say, oh, the scale isn't moving, but my pants fit better. That's great. But is that your goal? Is it your goal to fit better in your clothes? Then that's different than saying that you only want to lose weight, because muscle definition adds to it, which will be our next point. Another article was called Motivations for Weight Loss Amongst Active Duty Military Personnel. So despite mandatory reoccurring fitness testing and biometric assessments, half of our military personnel are classified as overweight, and then about 12% of military personnel are considered obese. If I were to give you an example of someone who's considered as obese because their BMI says they are, that'd be someone that's like an athlete who is very muscular, has a lot of mass, but not necessarily fat, and is considered obese. Let's say like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's actually considered obese, even though if you look at him, no one would consider him that. And that's where I want to go into this article, because it was very interesting to look at that, why they're losing weight. And one reason this article discussed weight loss is because the maintenance of weight within military standards not only affects the perception of a military service member's competence, appearance, and ability to actually perform their task, but has a concrete impact on their promotions and their retention, which is super important. Military people are really based on what they look like in their fitness tests, and it makes a huge difference whether they're going to get promoted or not. There are a couple of points that they had noticed differences between ethnicities. For example, having a chronic medical condition was a unique motivator for African American individuals in the study, while the physician recommendations to lose weight was a predictor of initiating weight loss in Caucasian members, which you can see it's a big difference. Both focus groups of African American and Caucasian women in the sample, which was a middle age, the mean age was about 42 years old, they attributed appearance as motivation for attempted weight loss when they were younger, and then health reasons for when they got older. So you can see even weight loss within one subgroup of people changes as we get older, which makes sense. When we're younger, we want to look better, we're really becoming ourselves as adults. As we get older, we realize that we want to live longer and we want to make sure we're healthy, which has nothing to do with weight loss. If you being healthy is to lose weight is different than saying it's the primary reason why you are. And the differences also happen in men that they cited, is that younger men tend to want to lose weight to improve their physical fitness. Middle-aged men between 30 and 40, they want to lose weight to improve their appearance. And then older men from 40 to 55 wanted to just reduce their health concerns. So the majority of the participants were Air Force, military, then it was Navy, Army, and Marines. They were randomized to two conditions. They had either counselor-initiated interventions or they had self-paced interventions. Their weight loss motivation was assessed by their motivation for weight loss scale. They had just to see how motivated they were to actually lose the weight. And what were the participants? Participants on average, they were aged 34 plus or minus 7.5 years, and their BMIs were 30.6 and about 33. The four major goals for weight loss across all these participants were they want to improve their physical health, they want to improve their fitness, improve their quality of life, and they want to live longer. And what's funny is that this was a military study, so to pass the fitness test would have a big impact, but only 69% of the sample said that was a very important reason why they were trying to lose weight. Women were more likely to endorse several reasons to lose weight compared to men. And the women improved because they want to improve physical mobility, they want to improve their mood, they want to improve their confidence, they want to improve their sex life, and they want to fit into their clothes better. And women in general tend to answer surveys more in detail than men, and this is just a research evidence-based finding. Not every researcher agrees with this, but this is one general aspect we have. And this is something that I wanted to also notice, is that women tend to want to have many reasons to lose weight. But it's, as you can see, it's because they want to change their moods, they want to increase their sex life, and their belief is that that will help. Losing weight will. And I think for me, when I read this article, it was more of the mindset of if you can see yourself as being more successful, why is it that you have to lose weight? Unfortunately, we still live in a culture where thinner is better, And that's one thing that this article definitely pointed out too, is that even in the military, that your progression in the military is based on not only on your years of service, but how you look. And you have to be strong. The fourth point was that you're noticing some muscle definition. If you lift heavy, if you lift more rather than just doing cardio or reducing your diet, then you're going to build up muscle. And muscle needs energy, which is food. And most people, when they gain muscle, have to eat a little bit more to build it up, because otherwise your body doesn't have the nutrition for it to actually build muscle. The fifth point is that your body measurements are changing. And this happens a lot, is that a lot of people will look at each other and say, oh wow, you look like you lost a lot of weight. And that puts somebody in a different limelight, especially, I use myself as examples, that I haven't lost weight. I've actually gained weight in the last few months, and people have said that I look like I've lost weight once in a while, and it's not because I'm actually losing weight. It's maybe that day that they saw me, I did an upper body workout or I did a lower body workout, and my body is just reacting to it, and it makes me appear smaller. And that's something that everybody is very aware of in their own right, but I know for me it does make me feel a certain way. I've had to learn how to say thank you instead of explaining it, because not everybody thinks similarly to me in that sense of giving a compliment of, oh, you look like you lost weight, might seem like a positive, but for me it's something that it's not. I'm more than my body, and I know that body measurements do help you, give you a progress report, but I am not totally reliant on it when it comes to detecting if I lost weight or not, because that is not my goal. Third article I read was called Impact of Weight Loss on Waist Circumference and the Components of the Metabolic Syndrome. So there is this idea of waist circumference. So if your waist is thinner, you have less adipose fat around your organs and you are considered healthier. And there's also a thing called metabolic syndrome. Now, let's go through some definitions. So remember, obesity contributes but doesn't cause to metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is associated with increased cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. So there's one study, one research lab, the University of Michigan Weight Management Program is a 2-year clinical program. And what they did, they want to assess waist circumference and the increased risk of metabolic syndrome. And they took their participants, it was a 2-year study, and the first 3 to 6 months were pretty strict. They had a strict diet to promote 15% weight loss. And they did that by only letting the participants consume 800 calories per day in the form of total meal replacement. And then they asked them to gradually increase their physical activity to 40 minutes a day. And that is huge. The study definitely cut a lot of calories in these people's diets, which was really unhealthy. And then after the 3 to 6 months, the participants were transitioned to eat regular food, and their total calorie intake went up to 1,200 to 1,500 for women and 1,500 to 1,800 men, which is much healthier, which I'm glad they were able to adjust that, but still pretty low considering their meal demands before that. The entire 2-year program involved 11 visits with a physician and 26 visits with a dietitian. All the participants were considered overweight and obese, so they decided to cut them up into 3 groups of circumference size, less than 112 centimeters, and then the second group was 112 to 124 centimeters, and then the last group was more than 124 centimeters for waist circumference. And the first group had the largest relative decrease in waist circumference and BMI at 6 months and at 2-year checkup. And then the last one, the largest group with more than 124 centimeters in circumference, had the smallest relative decrease in the waist circumference and BMI at 6 months and 2 years. The individuals with the higher waist circumference had higher long-term mortality rates across the BMI categories, even after adjusting for other risk factors. So this study needed to do a little bit more research, because their initial findings were that they couldn't really get a beneficial effect in reducing the waist circumference, because they were limited to only observe effect in a small portions of participants who actually lost weight. That when these studies are done and they're telling participants to lose weight, there is no number. There's not saying, okay, if you definitely lose 20 pounds, you'll be healthier. Those numbers don't exist, because weight loss is not measured like that. Having a certain weight loss does not mean that you're going to be that much healthier. It is very individualistic. If you're losing weight only through nutrition, it's very different than losing weight through strength training, cardiovascular training, and nutrition. I would all agree, and you could agree with me if not, is that doing all these other things like exercising, moving, eating better, being more mentally happy, being more mentally cognitive of yourself is a healthy way of losing weight than just reducing your calories just to lose weight. And this is what the study showed, is that their weight loss was, they couldn't see any more differences in metabolic syndrome. The sixth one is that your chronic pain improves. Now this is a loaded one because I know that even I have said that if you are a little bit heavier and you have pain, losing some weight will help reduce the pain. The research is not completely conclusive on this, and we'll go through this really shortly, that is actually true. Because your body is made a certain way, especially if you have been the same weight for many, many years, your body is adapted to that load, whether you're light or you're heavier. I remember when I was 220 pounds, I didn't have knee pain, I didn't have any back pain. I started to get pain later on in life after I started training harder and I didn't properly stretch, and now I'm helping myself heal through different methods. That pain is not associated with me with size. It's actually more on flexibility, mobility. Are you drinking enough water? Or it has nothing to do with weight loss. Good because you want to reduce your pain. This is one article that I looked into. It's called The Intentional Weight Loss for Overweight and Obese Knee Osteoarthritic Patients, and Is It More Better? This study was conducted because they thought that 10% of weight loss resulted in less pain, better function, improved health-related quality of life, reduced knee joint loads, and lower inflammation than in groups that did not lose the 10% of weight loss. And they went through it. So what they did is they had a sample group. They had older people over the age of 55. They were mostly community dwellers. They were ambulatory. They had to have 4 criteria. They had to have a sedentary lifestyle, so not moving so much, not so much walking. They had to have a BMI between 27 and 41, so they were in the overweight to obese category. They had to have mild or moderate radiographic tibiofemoral osteoarthritis, which just pretty much means they need to have osteoarthritis in their lower limbs. And they have to have pain on most days. So those are the 4 criteria. The goal of the intervention was to have the weight loss be 10% at least of their baseline weight when they started the study. And their diet was mostly partial meal replacements, including up to 2 replacement shakes per day. And then the third meal was suggested to be between 500 and 700 kilocalories, low in fat and high in vegetables. Women were given a calorie goal of 1100, and men were given 1200 calories for men. And that's really low in my own personal experience. And their macro distribution was 15 to 20% was going to be protein, less than 30% for fat, and then 45 to 60% for carbs. And this was consistent with the dietary references intake for energy and macronutrients. And they also had an exercise intervention for this study, which meant they had to do 1 hour, 3 days a week. And the 1 hour session consisted of 15 minutes of walking, then 20 minutes of strength training, 15 minutes of aerobic phase, and then a 10-minute cool down. I was very happy to say that they put in some strength training as well as cardio to help with their weight loss. But also, like I said, these were individuals who had suffered from osteoarthritis, so they wanted to make sure that they can see if their bones and their pain is going to get better. They found that 5% to 10% of weight loss in these older overweight adults with the knee osteoarthritis, they had a positive effect on their results, which showed that they actually did reduce some of their pain, and they were able to move a little bit better. This was one sample size. The study was really specific, so it was good to see that they did reduce pain. Like I said, I don't know if this would have happened in regular individuals who don't have osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis is very specific, but it's good to see that some weight loss did help. But I also feel that them going from a sedentary lifestyle of doing pretty much nothing all week to doing 3 1-hour workouts definitely could have had an effect in their pain, because not only they're moving their body, but they're improving their muscle tone just by exercising. So this was one thing that I read as the article, is that their weight loss was not maybe one of the main reasons why they reduced their pain, but also because they added some strength training for a good amount of time for their study. The seventh sign is that you're going to the bathroom more or less frequently. This one I found kind of funny because it's true that if you want to lose weight, most people say that eat more vegetables, eat less meat, and that could change your bowel movements, whether it's going to the bathroom more, going to the bathroom less. I joke around that I drink a lot of water so I can stay awake because I'm always walking to the bathroom. This one kind of seemed a little far-fetched to use as a weight loss progress, but it was in the article, so I decided to just present it to you and let you know that this is how I feel about it, and I'm sure you have your own opinions about it. The eighth sign is that your blood pressure is coming down. Now, this is also something that's very specific. Blood pressure tends to be higher in bigger people, but I know a lot of very thin people who also do have high blood pressure due to their family history, cardiovascular disease in their family, or they're very stressed, or they aren't drinking enough water, so their blood pressure is higher because they're not hydrated enough. I don't think you should use your blood pressure as a sign that you are losing weight. Like I said, I've been categorized as the overweight. My blood pressure is pretty consistent. It's usually 98/62, which is a healthy range. But even when I was bigger at 220, my blood pressure was maybe 110/70, still in that healthy range. But for me, I didn't feel any difference. I think blood pressure is something that changes as we get older. The ninth one is that you snore less. There's this perception that if you're bigger, you most likely will have more sleep apnea, you will snore more. This research is also not conclusive. There are a lot of people that are just, their nasal passageways are shaped a certain way and they snore because the way their head tilts back, the position they're sleeping, are they sleeping on their side, they're sleeping on their back, they're sleeping on their stomach. There's so many reasons why you snore. You could also be really dead tired after working a long shift and you just snore. I know I've woke myself up snoring, but I don't think that's a real true sign of weight loss. And if you do, then definitely speak to your physician about it, and you could discuss that if you need help with your snoring issues, if you feel like you have sleep apnea. And the last tip that they had, number 10, is that your mood improves. Again, I don't want this to be that to feel better about yourself, you have to lose weight. That is not my message. And I struggled a lot with this. This is why I took another week to really present this data. I want to think about these articles that I read because for me, on bad days, when I'm not feeling good about myself, sometimes I'll use the scale or the fact that my pants don't fit to determine my mood, and that shouldn't be a healthy way. Your mindset and who you are should always lead how you feel. It's okay to feel a little down once in a while, but don't use your weight as an excuse. Don't use your weight as something to hold you back. Because I can promise you, you are beautiful and amazing people regardless of how much you weigh. That is not what determines who you are. And the last study I want to discuss with you, this title is called What Matters in Weight Loss? An in-depth analysis of self-monitoring. The purpose of this study was to analyze the contribution of self-monitoring to weight loss in participants in the 6 months commercial weight loss intervention administered by Retrofit, and specifically identify specific contributors to weight loss that are associated with behavior and outcomes. So pretty much, why do we want to lose weight, and let's see what happens. The participants were 18 years or older with a starting BMI of 25. All participants were given the same technology, access to a weight loss expert, education, accountability, feedback, and the opportunity to communicate with an expert coach via web-based messages. They were each provided a Fitbit, activity tracker, Wi-Fi enabled scale, and access to a private dashboard to report all these findings. And what's interesting is that the people who were more successful at losing weight, there were 2 weigh-in metrics that were calculated to checking in, which was 1, the amount of weigh-ins they did per week, and 2, the percentage of weeks that participants weighed in at least 3 times. So you being successful at weight loss is pretty much not that you want to lose weight, but also your accountability. Are you going to check up on yourself and actually see that you're actually doing the process? The participants didn't have an option to really report their own activities. They had the Fitbit, so they had to pretty much rely on how much their body was moving and what the data was showing. All measurements were associated with self-monitoring behaviors, dietary intake, physical activity. All those were included in this multi-regressional analysis to see what was the most successful tool for them to lose weight. So the results were about 2,100 participants completed in this over 6 months. There was no difference in age and starting BMI at baseline between male and female participants. Male participants had a higher starting weight than the females. The results show that the mean weight loss at 6 months was about negative 5.58%, and the mean change in BMI was losing 1.91 in your BMI. And then 51.87%, so more than half of the participants lost 5% or more of their baseline weight at 6 months, which is what they want to see, is that they wanted people to lose weight in this study. The male participants lost a larger percentage of weight and had a higher BMI change than most of the female participants. To break it down to each one, the mean weigh-in frequencies over 6 months were more in the people who lost more than 10%. They were 4.7. The participants who lost between 5 and 10%, their mean weigh-in frequency was 4.21. And for the group that lost less than 5%, it was 3.4. So showing that most people who lost more weight, they tend to check their weight a lot more. Also, what they noticed too is the activity. So what were the daily steps over 6 months? So again, the participants who lost the most weight, more than 10%, had about 8,000 steps. The next group, which was losing between 5 and 10% of their body weight, was 6,600 steps, and the group that lost less than 5% was 5,200. So again, they did track that and saw that people who tend to lose weight tend to move more, which is good, but doesn't mean that it's specifically correlated. I would just be mindful of looking at it. A lot of people who lose weight tend to move more, which is great. Another measurement was the mean weekly activity. Again, people who lost more than 10% had more activity, 154 minutes compared to 115 or 79 in the other groups. And also the mean weekly food log days over 6 months were higher in people who lost more than 10%, which was 4.4 days per week compared to 3.9 or 2.90 for the other subgroups. Studies showed that participants who complied more with their body weight, physical activity, and everything else that's self-monitoring were more likely to lose weight than those who complied less. And females tend to weigh in a little bit more frequently than males, which is a unique finding due to the historical small percentage of male participants in this weight management study, and there's also a lack of evidence of why there is a gender comparison. There is the stereotype that women tend to weigh themselves a lot more. We're always trying to lose weight, and I think that could be an obvious thing that we can state, but scientifically I can't state it because we don't have enough research. So what have all these studies showed? Studies showed me that we are always trying to be better, to be stronger, but I don't know why we always are trying to lose weight. And this is something that you could definitely leave in the comments. Let me know what you think. Because for me, I want to shy away from this losing weight mentality and to rather tell myself to become better, to become stronger. And some days I actually don't need to be better or stronger. I need to be me. If you want to lose weight because you think will mentally and physically and spiritually make you feel better, great. But I don't want you to put too much pressure on yourself to do that. I know for me, I've always, my whole life, have thought that if I was a little bit skinnier, I'd be happier. That's actually not true. When I was 220 pounds compared to now 160, I wouldn't say I'm happier because I lost weight. I'm happier because my mindset has changed. I do know that I tend to want to say things that people are looking better, and I've had to change my own vocabulary within myself because I know that when I used to be criticized for my weight, it really hurt, and sometimes I could feel myself saying that to other people in a joking way, and that's not okay. The changes have to start with me, and that's what I'm presenting to you, is that I want to make sure that my changes are going to be very small for myself, but maybe there'll be a bigger picture that we can see. Instead of saying that, oh, you know, I'll be happy when I lose weight. That is not true. And I think that that's what I'm trying to figure out for myself, is to present it in a way that's showing that I am living through my own words and saying that it's not about my weight that's going to change. It's about my mindset that's going to change. I want to thank you all for joining me. Like always, be good to yourself, be kind, love yourself, and if you have extra space, be kind to others just for the sake that you are a good person, not because you owe it to anybody. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. I'll see you next week. Hopefully I'll have a more fun topic to talk about, maybe an exercise, never know. Anyway, be good. Thank you so much.